Everyone, and welcome to another episode of our Bringing the Whip Community Together series of interviews that I've been doing with wonderful members of this great community of whip makers and whip crackers. Today I am joined by none other than Torrance Fisher from SwordGuyBuilds.com. How you doing, Torrance?
I'm doing wonderful today. How are you?
Awesome. It's good to hear. I am doing great. I'm very excited to talk to you, and especially the given the LA WhipCon that we just completed, and I hear you did pretty good.
I
It,
think I got third in probably the one hand. I think that was it. It was it
double
was, it
whip,
was fine. I
double whip
say it again.
double whip
Oh, it
freestyle,
was the two.
two hand.
I forget because whatever. I'm neurotic.
Yes,
I'm sure I did okay. I think you're right.
you also got an honorable mention in the single whip freestyle. So
That was. Oh
you
yeah, no, Jeez, it feels like forever since I actually looked at those announcements because time is an illusion.
right.
But I like you're basically telling me fresh, oh, you did really well, and I'm going, oh, I
You'll get
trust
the
you.
medal in the mail soon, and then you can hang it up and remember.
For sure. That'll I will need that.
Yes, yeah, I saw Todd actually. He's still working on them. The quarantine and all has slowed things down a bit, but you'll be getting
He,
one of those.
he
That's very
never he
exciting.
never stops.
He never
He never
does.
stops contributing.
But yeah, that's really great. Looking at your performance too, um, you've got such a wonderful flowy style, yet it's super technical as well. How is it that you've I mean, have you always had this kind of just smooth way of cracking whips, or is it just something that you're focusing on to intentionally be?
I would say the where that aspect of my style comes from is just okay. So you make a whip and you finish it, and it's all pristine and nice, and the transition zone is just how you like it and stuff like that. But you still need to sell that whip. You need to know how it functions, but you still need to sell it. So I go out there and I do my test cracks, and I'm trying to do them pretty lightly to make sure that the whip is still arguably pristine, and that having done that for a few years, that just really got into me.
Mm.
So now basically every time I go out to crack a whip, I'm just like, all right, up and down, be easy on the transition zone. Anything I do has to be sort of, hesitate to say gentle, but along those lines.
Sure. Definitely, when you look at other whip crackers, I mean, you can see a lot of them. I wouldn't say crack it hard. I don't think that's where you would say anybody. I mean, Adam cracks them very loudly. Danny cracks them very
For sure.
loudly, but they're not muscling them. But it's a different style. It's faster. It's energy.
For sure. I find myself using the word authoritative. It's like the way Danny cracks, the way Adam cracks, it's very authoritative. The
Sure.
way I crack is like, oh, I hope I'm not inconveniencing the whip. you know, uh, there's zero authority in.
But I mean, clearly, it's a valid approach, which is awesome, and it's I don't know how to put it other than it's beautiful to watch. Um,
Oh, you're very kind. Uh,
yeah,
no, it's the sort of thing that I don't really have any particular attachment to like my style, the
mhm,
way that I crack whips or whatever. It's strictly it was born from the necessity of just like preserving the whip in the best way that I can. But I don't know. I guess it does. I will say I think that my mentality when I go to crack whips, uh, trying to preserve the transition zone, stuff like that. I do think that promotes like a core understanding of the
sure.
motion. It's like if you can get it to the point where it will crack or even just click, uh, with very little effort. You go to do an overhead and you just like sort of move your hand around. If it still clicks, then you understand it. It's like you just get this just a strong core understanding. Is
Sure.
is what I usually.
Have you done any like contact staff or poi or any of those other rope dart or anything?
I have dabbled with all three of
Okay,
those. Let me think. I was
because
I
it
was
kind
actually
of has
really
that
into poi
feel.
for a while.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
My No, that's fine. I feel you. There are times when I find myself, I don't know, kind of channeling that energy with my whip cracking. Like the poi specific, and really poi is fascinating with relation to whip cracking, just because a lot of the cyclical logic is the same. It's like a 2-beat weave with poi is the same as a Queensline crossover. Queensline crossover, when you're changing lead hands, is a 3-beat weave with poi, stuff like that. And it's just, I think that's very fascinating in a way. But otherwise, the skills don't transfer very much, because, not to drive the poi thing into the ground, but it's like the poi travel on a vertical plane with, the 1-2 motion, but then the whips go side to side with the 1-2 motion. So I mean, it's not a perfect translation, but it's still sort of there. From poi, I got it interested in like rope dart stuff, just because like my sword background and a few martial arts influences. I was like, my first thought was, I wonder if you could weaponize poi. And I was like, oh, wow, they already did that with the meteor hammer in Shaolin Kung Fu. So I tried that a little bit, and that's cool. But again, not very not a very relevant skill. No skills transfer to whip cracking.
I don't know. I mean, like I said, your style is very, very you and very beautiful. So I don't know if it doesn't transfer at all. I mean, when I was talking with Leah, she was talking about how watching acrobatic performances of all these little Russian girls, and how she was getting tricks, ideas to translate into whip routines.
For sure.
So I think we all have our inspirations, and like I said, yours has a unique feel to it, and I wanted to know a little bit about where that comes from, because it's really cool.
No, that's kind of you. I appreciate it. No, that's really it. I'm literally just like trying to preserve the transition zones. It's like if you go out and crack whips, trying to like be easy on the whip. Actually, it's interesting because like I argued before, I believe that it builds core understanding of what makes the whip crack, but also when you go slower, you become able to really scrutinize the handling of the whip. It's like if you throw out just a super easy cattleman's crack, you start really feeling where the weight distribution lies.
Absolutely.
That was a weird way to say that. But it helps you with like diagnostics and troubleshooting and stuff like that. And I think that is a pivotal skill to learn, but of course also feeds into why my whip cracking looks this way,
And I mean, in addition to your whip cracking, I mean, you've mentioned it several times about, I mean, you make whips too. If people don't know that, they should definitely, once again, swordguybuilds.com.
Very kind of you.
Check that out. But we actually, Justin Beretsky has a question for us here. Oh, Keith Smith is online also. Hello, guys.
I love both those guys.
But big fans. It says, Tori, you seem meticulous and detail-oriented with your whips. Has there ever been a whip that you've made where you couldn't find a single flaw?
No.
No. Okay. Honest to the point.
No. Actually, very frustrating. Trying to... something that I talk about with Paul Nolan a lot is like, oh yeah, you're literally never going to make a perfect whip, but what drives your growth is the will to make a perfect whip. One day I will make a whip that is perfect, You're never going to do it because, maybe your knife skips in, or maybe this hide is super weak. I was actually, I just made a whip for Mason Cruzy, and he's a very good guy, very supportive. And I wanted to make it, awesome. But the hide that I had, it was saddle tan, and it was very, it was brittle, and it was like, I think I had a break or two, or maybe just a weak part in like the bellies somewhere, but then also on the overlay, I had a break right at the transition zone. And it's like, okay, well, this is never going to be a perfect whip, but I can still save this whip. And it's like another thing that Paul has said a few times is like, oh yeah, whip making is less skill and much more troubleshooting.
Interesting.
It's like when something messes up, as long as you know how to like save it, that's the real key skill. It's just figuring out how to get yourself out of a tight spot.
Sure.
So it's like, no, I will never make a perfect whip, but pretty much every whip will be perfect in some way.
Perfect when you're done with it, always, right?
Oh, shoot, I lost you for a second.
It's
Say that again.
perfect when you're done with it, always. Can my
No, that's true. Better to have it finished and shippable than unfinished on your table taking up space. I've got like 3 like that right now.
I know in one of the whipcasts that Nick has done, I think it was with Blake Bruning, he talked about how, like, the same sort of idea about the troubleshooting and how that maybe the definition of a perfect whip that they're making is unattainable because you want there to be no problems. You want it to go together and just assemble perfectly to the end. But when you get to the end, if you have a whip that is beautiful and made and functions perfectly, then it can be called a perfect whip. But is it the way that you wanted it to be? Did you want it to? Yeah, it would have been way better if you didn't have a break. But the fact that you had to put another strand in there, I mean, you put strands in whips all the time. That's part of making a whip. But
for sure. No, I hear what you're saying. And yeah, as somebody who is deeply ashamed of himself, like I come from a long line of deeply depressed human beings, but it's like, yeah, that is sort of like an underlying struggle with all this stuff. It's like, if it's not perfect, I'm not worth anything, and it's like balancing that against what you're saying, where it's like, hey, but you still finished a whip, and it's admittedly a very good whip. Aren't you worth at least a little?
I would say so.
And that being said, it's so encouraging and gratifying knowing that there are people out there like Justin Moreski or Keith who are always just so supportive and encouraging, not even just to me, but to everybody, and it's like people like that in this community are probably in no small part why I'm able to like subsist despite my neuroses. and I think that, God, I just can't thank people like that enough. People who are so passionate about it and just appreciative and supportive.
Absolutely.
The world at large and the whip community are richer for those people.
They are. They really are. And Justin actually did follow up with a question for you as well, as what is the best whip you've ever made? And you can put all these different things we've said, and you kind of grain of salt.
Best whip I've ever made.
The last one, right?
That's a difficult question. In terms of aesthetics, honestly, that whip I made for Mason was pretty high up there. That whip looked very clean. Ian Cameron has a 20-foot nylon whip that I made where I'm almost positive I didn't mess up any of the pack in, a 20-foot whip, and that was satisfying. Though, of course, every whip is not without its issues. Let me think. Best whip I ever made.
If one jumps out at you.
I love all my whips equally.
Very well said. Very well said. They're all beautiful. I even have one of your whips here, which I'll show. I've got a couple of them. One of yours is right up here on the wall. It's the gold and black one over here. But then there's the one that you made the thong for.
Oh, shoot, that's right.
Just stunning. With the fancy
that was such a great experience.
Yeah.
No, I think the handle came out super clean. Just a good like rhythm to the pattern work, and just the bold contrast of the handle against the patterned section. It just really nice work. Really nice work.
Yeah, it really came out great, and I love what you did in the thong where you actually have a swell in a nylon stock whip, which is really nice. It puts that weight out there. And the way that you add those strands in and get that weight out into the thong rather, it's really awesome. And another thing with your design, I mentioned this with Nick Schrader actually, I think. or maybe it was Isaac, or maybe both. But we've talked about you on several episodes, in case you haven't heard. But one of them is how you end your twisted taper at the end, where you make a it's not quite an English eye. It's where you go in and out of the.
For sure.
So
the little melty beaded little loopy thing that I sort of force at the end of the thing, for sure. No, I just heard you on the other one talking to Isaac about that, and you guys both had some very kind words, and I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And what we said is we are both referring to it as the Fisher hitch. So that is our fall hitch. the Fisher hitch. So thank you very much. It is amazing.
No, that's very kind of you. Obviously, everybody hopes to like make their mark and leave something to the rest of the whip community, you know. And it's like, even if it's just something like that, just like, oh, I tied the hitch this way, it's still very satisfying because people like attach themselves to it, and they're like, oh wow, I never thought about it this way, or now I thought to do it in that way or whatever. And in one way or another, it just like enriches everybody's experience of it. But of course, you don't get that if you just like do it in a bubble. So really, sort of rambling.
No, but I mean that's a valid point though, and I certainly hope you do feel like you've made an impact and made your mark on the whip making and whip cracking community. I mean, third place is nothing to sneeze at, absolutely. But
very kind.
Yeah, another thing that we mentioned, if we're just going to dive into some of your whip making style here, is your tapered twisted falls as well. That was another thing that I've heard several people talk about, and I think it's really awesome where you can go take a mass of 4 down to a mass of either 1 or 2, depending on how you end it, and
for sure,
additionally get that weight out there, which has been really hard to do with a nylon whip. With a single strand of nylon is very light versus a single strand of leather.
That's true.
Lag here, so
let me think. I don't. Yeah, sorry. It's probably my connection. It's not excellent. But let me think. I did just remember in one of the other interviews you were talking about wanting to know like what criteria I use to decide how to taper a fall for a nylon whip.
That was one of the questions. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me think. So there are really something like, I don't know, let's say 6 types of, well, I think, I don't remember. There's roughly half a dozen types of hitches that I use and half a dozen types of falls that I use for nylon whips.
Wow.
So the, let's say, if we're just talking about like that, the tapered twists falls, I use those for any whip that ends, or any nylon whip that ends with a 4-plat. You know, so if it's got the mass of 4 braided strands with a core, then, you know, one step down from that would be, you know, the 4-strand twist. So you know, I just step it down 4, 3, 2. I don't step it down to 1 because early on in my whip cracking experience, I felt like I was breaking a lot of falls that ended with the mass of 1 strand. So I was just like, I'll just terminate it in 2, you know, and that seems to have worked very well. But I've also stopped breaking falls that end in the mass of 1 strand, so I'm not really sure if it matters. Let me think. On a whip that ends with the little beaded eye that you were talking about, I will generally do, you know, like the standard. Sure, I'll generally do the standard like double over. Maybe half the length is double thickness, and then half the length is 1 strand thickness. And I feel comfortable using that sort of fall on a whip that comes down very fine because there's less force in the crack, so I don't have to worry so much about that part of the fall like breaking off or whatever. I will use a straight cut, untapered filler strands still in length of paracord for my like economy models or for the cow whips. Those also come down to really a 3-strand twist. I actually don't take anything down to like a 2-strand twist, but the ones that come down to 3, I will do either that doubled over tapered fall, or I will do just a straight cut if it's one of the economy models.
That's just through your
just little
experience
stuff like that.
using them.
For sure. The cow whips, the economy hybrids, and the economy bull whips that I use the straight cut for, really that was just to streamline the process so that I can really my prices should be going up more than they have been because of inflation and the pandemic and everything being harder. But one of the things that I was able to do to reduce the build time so that I'm still sort of getting out of it what I need in order to survive was that
Okay.
fall change, where it just makes it a few minutes faster, helps me feel like I'm getting more of the revenue that I get from that sale, etc. So yeah, there's a lot of different criteria, but for the most part, it's just about coming down in a way that does not disrupt the diminishment of mass.
Sure. Tell me a little bit about how you determine fall length. This was a conversation we had when you were visiting, and it was really interesting.
If I am tapering a fall, whether it's the 4-strand twist or just the 2-strand double over, whatever, my basic rule is, and it used to be before I was waxing whips, the rule was the length of the whip in feet times 4 for the 4-3-2 4-3-2-2 tapering of the fall equals the number of inches that the fall is long. So it's like if it's a 6-foot whip, then 4 inches, 6 inches where it's 4 strands, 6 inches where it's 3, and then really 12 where it's 2. Or if it's an 8-foot, 8 inches where it's 4, 8 inches where it's 3, etc. But now that I am waxing things, because it adds weight,
right,
the whip feels very clunky if you have that much mass in the fall and it's that heavy, So it's like my rule now is the length of the whip in feet plus 2 is the tapering interval for the falls. So that same 6-foot would have 8 inches of 4 strands, 8 inches of 3, and an 8-foot would have 10 inches of 4 strands, 10 inches of 3, like that. And that seems to have really helped get it to the point where it'll crack with authority, but it will also not feel terrible on the rollout,
Sure.
But it's also largely stylistic. There are people who will hate that. I don't know.
I mean, that's putting what, like a nearly a 40-inch fall on a, what is that, 8-foot whip? Is that right?
An 8-foot, yes.
So,
and I feel that makes logical sense, even though just hearing it sounds like a lot. As soon as I feel like it is no longer doing what I want it to, I'll do something else. But for right now, it's like, it just works.
And I think that's key too, is that, I mean, you're experimenting and you're testing these things and you are cracking every whip, and that if it's not working, you're not doing it. So I know a lot of people, it's like 36 inches every whip or 24 inches every whip. And that you've got a ratio and you've got not just a algorithm to figure it out, but you are actually testing it, which is really cool.
For sure. I want to think that I'm always taking an active role in curating a specific whip cracking experience, Yeah. It's like if you make a nylon bull whip for somebody, it's like, especially with how much the whip making community has expanded and there are now so many people making nylon whips, you kind of owe it to yourself to really take every project to heart and make it the best you can possibly make it,
Absolutely.
So yeah, it largely for me is about curating an experience and making sure that the whip is the best that I know how to make, and when I learn more, I will change the way I'm doing stuff,
Just want to shout out, we've got a bunch of people in the chat with us. Well, we have a few people, but Stephanie Smith has joined us as well. Hello, Stephanie. Good to see you.
Hey.
We've got...
I got to meet Princess Stephanie in Missouri when I went to visit her and Keith.
Yeah.
We didn't get to crack whips. because
Oh,
it was rainy. But no,
yeah.
that was an awesome trip. Oh
I,
yeah,
I've heard a
and
lot
I think
about it.
I for sure I think I landed with them like the day after I left your
Yes,
place.
that's right.
Uh, yeah, just awesome. I can't wait to do that stuff
It was
again
so much
because I don't
fun.
know. It's so yeah. It's so important to try to connect with people
Yeah,
that you've spoken with. You know, it's just a different interaction. You
it
know,
really is. And I'm trying to capture that again with these interviews. But,
right?
and I feel like I'm doing it to a degree, and everyone else is able to share
I
with
think
it.
you are.
Well, thank you.
For sure. No, I think you're doing a great job because all of this, like, it sort of shows the scope that this all can spread. You know,
Sure.
it's like people who haven't really engaged with the whip community directly are seeing this in their feeds, and I think that's it's awesome. It's a slight tweak to the format people are used to that just reinvigorates their interest in something they already love.
Absolutely.
You know, and in that way, it's awesome. I think you're doing an excellent job.
Well, thank you. And I'm looking forward to speaking with lots more people, members of our community out there. Actually, one of them
For
that I
sure.
want to talk to in the near future is Eddie Vasquez, who has joined our chat. Eddie,
God, I love Eddie so much. Yeah, he is an excellent whip maker, but he is secretly, and I get mad at him for this, but he is secretly an
I,
excellent whip cracker.
not so secret. Have you seen
I was
his videos on Instagram? Oh my goodness,
Yeah, but he doesn't post very often.
Eddie, get on that.
I always yell at him like, dude, you have to post more of you doing like two-handed four corners stuff and just nailing every crack. I'm like, dude, what are you doing that you're only posting every month and a half? Come on. I want to see it now.
Come on, Eddie. Yeah, I want to talk to him for sure. Oh, Aaron
Yeah.
Bonk has joined us as well, and he said he would be happy with a pretty damn good whip. So,
For sure. No, and Aaron and I am very excited to work on yours. He and I we already settled on the specifics for the whip that he ordered,
nice
the 15-foot that I know he
long
was
one?
mentioning in the other in
Awesome.
his interview.
Exciting.
No, it's going to be really cool, and I'm gonna get my friend Carrera Torres to burn the handle on that, and it's just going to look excellent. I'm
Nice.
really excited about it.
Yes. I can't wait to see some pictures of that. Actually, that would be a good
For sure.
segue over to on your website. You've got a link to your Instagram, and you've got all these gorgeous pictures of some of these other ones you've made. Definitely be another place to
For sure.
check it out. Keith,
Oh, yeah.
Keith says his 2 7-footers from you are perfect, with 2 heart emojis. I know you worked very hard on them.
They're not, but you're sweet.
I know you worked very hard.
I do, but yeah, I don't know. That something I always come back to, and something that I guess I want people to know in a weird way is like I'm not kidding when I talk about the depression. Like it's a big part of my life, but I know that everybody has their own struggles and stuff, and I'm not even the only whip person who has like clinical depression and stuff like that. So it's like all the support and stuff. Like I don't know, you guys make my heart melt when like when Keith says like, but they are perfect, or when Bonk says he's excited about whatever. I'm like, oh God, they really like me. I don't have any excuses to feel terrible.
Well, I mean, I think this just goes to show that we should be reaching out and chatting with each other. I mean, we don't know where everyone is in their life
Yes.
and what each day brings. And I mean, I'm offering anytime you want to chat, I'm here for you, man. But also we need to be
I
reaching
appreciate
out.
you.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, I feel like we should be reaching out and checking on each other too, especially during this quarantine time. It can be so hard on people.
Definitely. No, it's unique challenges, unexpected challenges this year with I don't know, having to deal with isolation that does not come by choice. Like I wouldn't call myself a loner, but I'm definitely an introvert, and I need a lot of like quiet alone time to like feel out my thoughts and stuff like that. But it's like when you stop having a choice, it becomes a very different game, and yeah, I'm feeling it, at this late stage in the game. It's tough.
Aaron wants to mention that you are definitely not alone on the depression front, brother. Thank you for being brave enough to
For
mention
sure.
it. So,
Uh,
yeah,
no, I very, very sweet. No,
absolutely. Whip family here,
all
right?
all this stuff. It's like, uh, forgive me. Go on.
No, no, no. We are Whip family. We're here for each other. So,
For sure.
absolutely. So,
Oh
speaking of our
man,
community,
I
though, I mean this LA
sure.
WhipCon also has been very different with this whole quarantine and all. How do you think? I mean, I'm doing these interviews, but what else can we be doing, especially once the world starts to open up again, to continue to build the whip community and whip cracking, whip making? What are your thoughts on that?
Interestingly, I think my biggest thing is perhaps I want to make sure that the the things we've had to set in motion as a means of adapting to the social aspect of the quarantine, like the interviews, like the virtual part of the competition and stuff like that. All the challenges, all the like Instagram challenges and all this stuff, or TikTok challenges, whatever. Uh, I don't I don't want to lose all that
Yeah,
when everything opens back up. I think it will be very important to uh, broaden our understanding of the relevance of the online interactions and our methods of online interaction, so that they are still important, even though they're not necessary. Does that make
oh,
sense?
absolutely.
I think that the interview stuff, I think it should not stop. Period. If you interview one person a week for the rest of your life, that will be an insane level of growth for the whip community.
I have to run that by my wife, but we'll see. So,
For
but no, I love the idea, and I definitely want to continue these for, indefinitely and continue going. I
Definitely,
love
sure,
chatting with you. I'm
yes,
making so many new friends, and I feel like it's not just me making friends with them. I feel like that a lot of the people I interview, I mean, a lot of you guys know each other already, but it's
sure,
bringing you back together with people you already know. Like, oh yeah, it's been a year since I've talked to that person, and now just kind of touch base again. A step more than just
definitely,
seeing status updates on Facebook and hitting like. But
yes, yes, I agree,
right. Um, but like the performance aspect of this one this year, I think was really telling because that's something that couldn't be done in person. Um,
true.
Will Fitzpatrick, his first place
I love that
performance,
guy.
his dream video, was absolutely stunning. I mean, there's no other way to put it. What did you think about it?
For sure.
What were your thoughts on that category?
On the thoughts on the performance category, I wanted to submit a video like really bad, but I just didn't have a concept to work from, and of course, like Will did, or shoot, I'm blanking on the really good ones.
So
Uh,
Will did that. Well,
but
we can just go over them real quick. I mean, Will did his dream video. Justin Baretsky, he did his weirdness video. Leah,
ah, obviously, oh god,
right?
that video, yeah, and
Le-
and and Leah with the jump rope stuff, and
Leah with the jump rope, and then Ryder Kisner and Bethany
and
Lyles with their horses. I mean,
for sure. Now
I
there's a lot
mean,
of insane talent, and I think you're right that a competition like that would only not exactly suffer from having to be done live. It would definitely change the nature of it. I think that also to facilitate growth
yeah,
of the community, we should be leaning into online platforms. Like, I hate to say it deeply, but like TikTok, that facilitates editing skills
yes,
and stuff like that. Like it just puts it right at your fingertips. It's like if you load up two or three little clips, and anybody can edit them into a cohesive, story driven, like 10-second post, and it just increases its scope and its power and stuff like that. And I think that's awesome. Uh, and we would lose that from doing something like that live. That being said, maybe it would be fair do both. You know,
Right.
if you have a live competition,
I think so.
then of course you would get a certain type of submission that is different from the type of submission you would get for, you know, an online contest.
Right, right. And
I hope
think
I hope
that's.
I answered the question and didn't just like
I mean,
ramble about nonsense.
I was asking you to ramble, so good job. Um, but that's the point.
One
Is
thing you can
that
always count on from me.
I'm enjoying this conversation immensely. So we're just a couple of guys sitting back geeking out
Likewise,
about
likewise.
whips, right? But yeah, so
Jam.
it's one of the things with the. I mean, if you think about it, an in-person contest or in-person meetup even is you have to be pretty interested in it in order to invest the effort to know when it's going to be and go out to the park and show up and see all these people wearing
True.
cowboy hats and things. You're like, I don't know if this is my group. I don't know. And I mean, there's a little bit of a barrier there, not to mention traveling around the world to get to these places, which aren't real common.
Definitely. Prohibitive.
Versus you have something like Will's that is super cool. I mean, no other way to put it. It's just an awesome video. It's fun and entertaining as a video piece itself, which is just on YouTube, and just watch it and enjoy it. And then you want to get a whip, and then you want to crack it, and then maybe go do some in-person meetups. But I think it's hand in hand. We have to have both. Personally.
For sure. No, and to quickly talk about I have such a deep abiding appreciation for Will's cinematography. He just gets it. You know, like he knows what is compelling to see play out for a few minutes. You know, he knows what draws your attention, and he just does that. You know, it's like this was not his first like movie type post, you know, and it just he just does an excellent job. He just gets it, you know.
He really does. He's a very talented filmmaker, regardless.
For sure. And I think the community is. I feel like I just heard you say this also, but it's like everybody's side skills just entirely enrich our experience of the whip community. You know, it's like you have people who make movies, you have people who ride horses, you have people who do martial arts or whatever, and it just finds a way into their art, their performance. And I think that is so it's every time it's unique and it's beautiful, you know, and I feel like that might be one of the like driving aspects of growing the whip community is integrating it with your own other passions, you know. It's Absolutely. Like so that we get a taste of who somebody is as a person, plus we get to think about this thing that we already enjoy in an entirely different way. And it's just an awesome experience every time. No matter what skill is combined, you know.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Justin was saying that on his weirdness video, that all the different skills that he does, plus all the contact stuff he was doing and the tosses, and he felt like it was just not just a minute or 3 minutes in that one of some of the best cracking he can do, but it's also a good synopsis of who he is and what he's interested in, which I thought was really an interesting thing to say.
I was fascinated by. No, forgive me. Go on.
No, please. Fascinated with.
I was fascinated by weirdness. You know, just because it was like there were so many little quirky skills, like even just his opening move of cracking his shades onto his face. That was insane. It's like that's got to take so much finesse, you know, because it's like how many times do you think he smacked himself in the face trying that? But he did it anyway because he's dedicated and he just loves it, you know, and it comes through so vividly in everything that he does, you know. Just really you can see his passion in his moves and stuff, and it's just crazy. Yeah, I have a very strong abiding appreciation for his content, for Justin.
And he's wanting to share it with the community also. I mean, him and Isaac have started the 101 Facebook group for learning for beginners to have a challenge each month. So if you guys are new to whip cracking and seeing this video, go check out 101 Whip Cracking Challenge on Facebook. There's you can win stuff, but it's a raffle. So just do the cracks and
I
learn new things. Yeah.
For sure. No, I thought that was a very elegant, important idea, because it's like, yeah, again, that's just like driving growth, and exactly. Building community and giving people another outlet for their creativity and drawing more people in who might otherwise stay on the sidelines, kind of quiet, not really like longtime listeners who haven't really like put themselves onto the platform. It's like, this is your group.
Yeah.
If you just picked up a whip yesterday, it's like, okay, now you have something to practice and a safe, non-judgmental, insanely supportive venue to post it. You will get feedback. You will definitely grow. It's like, it's just, I don't want to say a perfect idea, but it's very much up there. It's very, very high up there.
Absolutely. And I mean, we each are bringing our own talents and skills to this. Some of the things that I've seen, also thinking of through the different skills that I've seen you present in some of your work, like the lathe turning of stock whip or bullwhip handles, beautiful work.
For sure.
And that's a whole separate talent in itself. And once again, guys, go check out the bullwhip handles. They're beautiful.
You're very kind. I have mixed feelings about the lathe stuff, because it's like, on the one hand, I love working on the lathe and I love putting wood handles onto my stuff, but on the other hand, like I don't really feel the need to make like basic crowd pleasing handles. It's like, if I'm making a wood handle, it's gonna look crazy shape, just like weird. Like I really like doing sort of knobby profiles and stuff, and just playing around with the shape and trying to like get the blade like up in there in a way that sort of makes the mind go like, oh, what is that? But it's like, at the same time, those designs are not crowd pleasers. Not everybody likes them. So it's like, am I shooting myself in the foot by not making like just basic, oh yeah, you have the heel over here, you can grab that, I guess, and then some nonsense, and then the whip. It's like,
right.
I hate to make handles like that, but that's what most of the people who talk to me want, and I'm like, but you're missing out. I could make this look so weird.
I mean, you are a true artist too. You've got
streaks.
all these things to express, and I mean, even, but I don't think we've even mentioned it, you have a whole line of leather whips that you make as well, and
Sure.
you have some very creative names that you've been naming them, falchion and so forth, that
For sure.
I think are really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, all my leather models are named after swords, to try and ultimately it's like a means to try and like save utility of the name Sword Guy Build, because it's like I called my shop Sword Guy Builds, let's say 7 or 8 years ago, when I was making like wooden cosplay prop weapons and stuff like that, like giant scythes and swords and stuff like that, and it's like, my martial arts background, I was like, oh yeah, because I'm a sword guy, and this is the stuff that I build, but obviously that has precious little relevance to my current business model. So it's like, how do I save it? All the whips are swords,
Sure.
So we got like, we got like the falchion, the main gauche, the gladius, tachi, the dao, scimitar is going to be one of just like all bladed weapons, so that I can still feel like, hey, but I'm not a sellout. They are still sword names.
Now, it's really clever too, and I can see how, actually, with some of the wooden handles, they look almost like a pommel of a sword, and I was wondering if there was an intentional inspiration there.
Interestingly, I guess I've never thought about that, but you're right that it would be dumb for me to not try and like channel some sword aesthetics into the wooden handles. Uh, Actually, something I was just talking to Barb, who's gonna burn Bonk's handle, about was like doing like a sword motif. I'm not sure if we're gonna go that direction, but it's like, yeah, I should just do that in general. Just burn handles with images of swords and stuff. That would
That
look
would be
dope.
very cool.
Uh,
Cool.
but no, you're right that as a rule, I always have like a lot of pent up creativity, and I'm always trying to like find a way to responsibly let it out, I guess. Uh, so it's like I sort of rely on having the nylon outlet, the leather outlet, the turned wood handles outlet, just all that stuff. Like
Sure.
it just keeps me interested and feeling productive, I guess. You
Right.
know. That being said, I never feel productive, which is its own struggle, but whatever.
Yeah. Productive versus making ends meet. Scratching those itches
For
with the
sure.
productivity and versus creativity.
Right.
I think that's a struggle with most artists that are trying to eat also. Um,
our our ambition is too strong. I mean, we can't have a roof over our head and have no worry about where our next meal is
right.
coming from. Like, come on.
Exactly.
Uh,
Um,
Jeez.
yeah, so you've got actually another project that you've been working on recently with your multi-talents here. Some target scans that you're working on. Tell me a little bit about these. Very cool
Yes.
looking.
Thank you. Yeah. So the idea is, excuse me. The idea is that we will have a collapsible, hopefully very affordable target stand model, something that you can set up in your backyard. It's going to have, two arms on it. So you could even arguably like together with a friend or two and do like some bullwhip fast draw without having to go to the convention or whatever. So I'm very excited about it, but progress on it is also sort of slow just because whip orders and R&D and general depressed guy stuff,
Right.
But yes, that will be coming soon. Hopefully very soon.
Yeah, I'll have to get one of those from you. They look really cool.
I will appreciate you. But yeah, hopefully.
Very
Hopefully
cool.
soon.
Very cool. What one thing that I usually ask most people, and we just jump straight into the whip cracking right at the beginning, is like how long you've been cracking whips and how you got into it and all. We just completely skipped over that. You mentioned you had a martial arts background and stuff. Tell me, where you been from?
I guess those, sure. I guess those are sort of the same story. So
Right.
yeah, when I was a kid, my dad and I would play video games together, and one of the things that got me like in love with swords and the aesthetic of edged weapons and stuff like that was Final Fantasy VII, where the main character has a giant
Ginormous.
sword that yeah, so it's like so I fell in love with swords at that point. I think I was like 7 or 8 years old, somewhere around there. So in my teen years, I think I was about 13 or 14. My mom was like, hey, you have to pick an extracurricular activity. You have to do something out of the house that gets you moving around and being social. And I was like, I don't want to because that's dumb. But there was this flyer full of local programs and stuff like that. Dance classes, martial arts classes, all sorts of stuff. And I saw one for Iaido, which is sort of like Kendo's meditative cousin.
Okay.
It's like you're not really like swinging the sword to like kill people and get strong. It's just like, yes, but what is your relationship with the sword? How does the sword build you, and how do you build the sword? Stuff
Wow.
like that.
Okay.
Really
so deep.
Kind of interesting, but
read some sci-fi like
they
that.
never said it that way. I just said it that way to like, yeah. No, so through my teen years, I was practicing swordsmanship and stuff. And for a while in my early 20s, I had a small group of friends, and we would, which is funny because now I do not have a group of friends. So we would all practice sparring with like that was supposed to be funny. We were sparring with foam swords like once a week. And one of the times that we went out to do that, my friend Joe brought an Adam Winrich instant whip, you
Oh
know, and
yeah.
I was like, geez, Joe, what are you doing? This is not the place. What are, you know? And he was like, no, come with me. And I was like, okay. So he like walked me out into the middle of this giant field, and we went further than I thought was necessary. And I was like, okay, dude, I'm definitely losing my patience. This is better change my life, you know? And he was like, all right, you ready? You know, and it's like, it explodes and you just feel it in your chest. And I was like, okay, I guess this is my life now, you know, and it was, you know,
Right.
I spent that afternoon playing with that whip, and I think probably within a week or so I had made my own instant whip, you know, and I just it just went from there. It was a life-changing experience.
Wow.
Ultimately, even though Joe is still
No,
not one of my favorite people, but whatever, doesn't matter.
no, that's great though, and it's someone else drug you into it. I read in well, I have the whole top shelf there, well, the right hand half mostly is all different whip books, and they were talking a little bit
That's awesome.
about whip community. Most of them are whip making, but they said basically if you want to have whip people friends that crack whips this day and age, you're going to have to make them. Go find friends and get them
Yes.
to crack whips. Give them whips, make them whips. But get them
God help Joe, he did it.
right. And that's kind of today's. You got to go out and build your own. And that sounds like exactly what
For
you
sure.
did there. Yeah.
It was I don't know. It's been a struggle and a journey. We've all
Sure.
grown and made friends along the.
Did you
No,
want to
but
do
you're
this sort of
right.
thing? Sorry.
I'm sorry.
No,
Say that again.
no. I was just wondering. I mean, is this? I mean, whip making, prop building, those sort of things. Were you just like from that age? Were you thinking this is going to be my life? I want to make things with my hands and build this, or were you thinking I'd like a suit and tie and sit behind a desk all day, or build whips? You know,
Interestingly, I have always wanted a suit and tie, but no, you're right that working with my hands has always sort of won out. Like I said, I have a lot of. I always feel like I just need to like go and do something and be braiding or be building something, you know. So that was sort of a prohibitive mindset to be in if I did want to go like the desk job route, you know. So it's like to a certain extent, yes, I think for my whole life I knew that I didn't want the desk job
sure.
sort of life, but I didn't really know what my life would be. Geez, honestly, really until like maybe 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, I realized like, oh no, I now have the skill set that would facilitate me ditching. I was working at Home Depot for a while, and from there I went to work at an alloy plant,
Hmm.
and I was there for about 7 months, I guess. Uh, and I hated both of those jobs every day, and even though they were not desk jobs, it was just that feeling of losing
Sure,
your
sure.
life. And it's like, I'll be the first to admit that I have a delicate emotional constitution. I can't handle very much. But I knew that it was the sort of thing that if I did it for too long, my soul would punish me for it, you know? So it was like, I think I left the plant in like 2019. Actually, immediately following the 2019 whip convention. I think like
Ah,
2 or 3 weeks after that, I quit the plant with my little nest egg just to do the whip thing full time. And God help me, it has been very encouraging and very supportive. People are excellent to me generally, and I just it's been a great experience. But no, I didn't know that was gonna that there was any potential that I could support myself doing something I loved until like 2 or 3 years ago. Up until then, it was just like, oh, I guess I gotta go to work. Today I go into work at 5. Tomorrow I go into work at like 7 p.m.
Oh,
And it was just murder. But I guess I don't want to stay negative for too long. But no, that was pretty much it. The pivotal period of
no, I
time.
could see that. And different, it's interesting to see what got people from there to here, wherever that story may
For
be.
sure.
And do you feel like that some of your other, you had mentioned earlier, like the poi stuff, was that just hobby stuff that you had worked on that you managed to fit in between trying to do other stuff, or what was that?
Actually, yes. The poi that actually I started spinning poi literally to kill time at I was at Tulsa Welding School uh, for about 7 months, I guess, in 2015 into like February of 2016, and it was terrible, and I didn't like it at all. But the way the classes were run, uh, and because I'm an excellent student, I had just a lot of free time, and I was like, I'm not standing around doing nothing after I finish the admittedly basic classwork for 6 months. I need something that is portable and very
Mhm.
interesting and gets me moving around and getting rid of some of this like nervous energy,
Gotcha, gotcha.
and at that point, I I don't remember how, but yeah, I stumbled on poi spinning. I think it was shoot, I can't remember his name. Nick Woolsey, I believe.
Hmm.
Shoot, it's
Okay.
it's it's less prominent in my mind after a few years, but yeah, I started watching a bunch of his videos, and just like spinning poi like in class after I finished my tests and stuff, and everybody hated me for it, and I was like, hey, that sucks. Be a better student.
I mean, it could have been worse. It could have been while you're at Home Depot, you're spinning 2x4s and stuff. I mean, it would have been. Sorry, it's just a visual.
They couldn't have stopped me from spinning 2x4s.
Oh my goodness,
Uh,
I love it.
they would have fired me.
Uh, so one of the, I find it interesting looking at, I mean, just some of the work that you've done, like this one, but the level of detail and the level of craftsmanship, and I mean, not just the beautiful detailed fancy planning, but
Kind.
also like your knots and all. I mean, it sounds like, I mean, in the grand scheme of your life, it has been just the last few years you have gone from, this is an amazing instant whip to, I mean, honestly, one of the best nylon whip makers out there.
Yeah, you're very sweet to say that. No, I as much as I can, honestly, like I live and breathe it. It's like I live by the whip and I will die by the whip. It's fascinating to me. It helps me feel like I have
Mhm.
some purpose, and it also speaks to me because uh, some of it you can do by feel, but at its core, this is physics
Yeah.
and math and logic, and it's like it just works out. I mean, especially nylon. Like, don't even get me started. It's like if you come up with like a tapering ratio that is mathematically sound, 100% of the time
Yeah.
that will be a good whip. Whereas if like for a while I was not to just go off, but for a while I was actually for a good couple of years I think every time I would make a nylon whip it felt like
Mhm.
an experiment. But then I sat down. I guess it was shortly after I started going to the LA whip meets. Uh, not the whip convention, but the whip meetup that they have like twice a month. Uh, I would find myself like loaning whips to newbies while we're hanging out for the day, and I was like, oh shoot, I should have one of several different types of whips so that people can see and feel the difference between different types of whips.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I will make a nylon stock whip, a bull whip, a cow whip, and a snake whip, and those will be like my whip meet donor whips. And when I sat down to do those, I realized, okay, these are all built a little bit differently, but I know I will be tapering the core components in the same way. how can I streamline this process to make the formula applicable to any whip that I make, and that's when I just all at once it came to me. I was like, oh wait, and I guess it goes to what Adam refers to as like the drop coefficient. I think I use the term like
Sure.
dropping interval,
Sure.
because it's like you're not really talking whatever.
Right.
He's the one with the math degree. I'm just out here like doing stuff. Yeah, I settled on my math and I was like, oh wait, this works excellent. So I just always used those rules, and it worked very well while I was doing like multiple braided bellies and nylon whips, and it's working very well now that I'm doing like 1 or 0 braided bellies in a whip, and it's like there's always a way to make it work, no matter what you're trying to do, as long as you're thinking like logically and you see the larger picture. I guess you can see the whip when it's finished before it's made.
Right. Right. I've heard sculptors talk about that. They see the final product in that log
Sure.
before they start carving.
For sure.
Do you feel like your education has been more of this, like going and hanging out with people one-on-one, trying to watch them, or are you more of a YouTube, or dig it out of books, or how is it that you learn? And I mean, especially like when I'm looking at some of your knots, that the ends are completely invisible and they're this crazy interweave, and the lattice stuff you do. Like, what? Where does this come from?
You're very kind. With regard to, I guess I'll try to just touch on this very briefly, but with regard to the knots, since you mentioned that specifically, like, oh yeah, I can't see the ends. I'm laxing on that a little bit. Excuse me, but I remember when I was first starting, I saw a whip that I guess Lauren Wickline had made it when she was making whips, and I remember there was a knot on the thong, and I was like, how she do that? How's she even putting a knot just magically, like, not connected to anything, just floating in the middle of the thong? How's she do that? It looked like magic. And I was like, at that point, I was still, doing the whole like plastid dip on the heel to make it like grippable or whatever.
Sure.
Because I didn't know how to tie knots because I was dumb. But yeah, just over time, it's like it started making more sense to me, and I decided like I want as much as I can. I want this to look like magic to an untrained eye. So I just you tie the knot, and then you just like, I don't know, basically all I do is like tuck that last strand like under the edge of the knot with my fid, and it just, I feel like it just gives it that tiny little extra piece that is sometimes less than gratifying when you see a knot that has like a big melted knob on the side of it.
Sure. Sure.
I've never liked that. So it's just more like personally satisfying. Just
Absolutely.
to like tuck those last 2 strands under, and now it just looks like, oh, how do you do it?
Whip maker, whip cracker, and magician. I love it.
With regard to whip cracking, like I would venture most people I learned from almost exclusively. I learned my beginning cracks from Adam's YouTube tutorials and stuff. And having said that, I'm realizing it would be irresponsible not to say I also got started making nylon whips from Nick's videos.
Of course.
So
Shout out to Nick.
I just want to, great job, Nick. Credit where credit is due. You're a bro. Let me think. Oh, and I also visited Nick, I think, right after I visited Keith. God, I missed that. Let me think.
And then you mentioned
So I learned
Paul
my core
Nolan,
skill
too.
set.
You mentioned Paul Nolan that you'd been to work with as well.
He's I don't want to say too much, but we are bros. I love that guy dearly. We play chess on the weekends.
I love it.
It just and no, he has been just an invaluable, just a wellspring of information, and a lot of his techniques do inform a lot of my own decisions. I'm trying to make sure that anything that I do is not like unthinkingly just mimicking his moves, even though I know his methods are sound, but I don't want to just go like, he already figured it out. I'll just do it his way. I want to make sure that I'm only doing something that I understand why it's happening that way, you know? So it's like I don't do everything quite the same way as him, but honestly, it's like undeniably, yes, like hands down, Paul has been the biggest benefactor in my whip making journey, you know?
Wow.
Yeah, just definitely
I should chat
wellspring of knowledge.
with him. I hadn't thought of that. I have to send him a message.
I mean, yes, you should. Everybody should.
Awesome. That is super exciting.
No, I think if you did get him on here, I think everybody would have a great time. He's been around. You know, he went to the Wild West Arts Club. Just has met all kinds of whip crackers and whip makers, and it's like he's studied with the best people. He's built his stuff from the ground. I don't want to gush, but yes, that would be an excellent investment of everyone's time.
Very cool. Very cool. It sounds, you speak very highly of him today as well as when you visited before. I remember that. And I have just noticed that I have been taking up a lot of your time, so I appreciate it. We've been chatting for over an hour.
No, not
this
at
has
all.
really been awesome. And if anyone has any questions, we can definitely, I can pass those along. We can chat. Justin is asking, Tori, what is objectively the best type and length of whip? That may be a trick question. I'm not sure. Justin can answer that too.
I feel like he's asking that question like directly to my heart, because I'm like, you know what the answer is. But to give him back the same energy, I would say a 7-foot bullwhip with a 10-inch handle with a lance-shaped taper. Although also I do, oh God, would I go with like the I always want to call that like an asymptotal taper, even though nobody else uses that phrase.
What is it? Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Johnny calls it the brachistochrone taper, but I've always just thought of it like graphing a function of X, where you get. So I think of it as like an asymptote, but I'm not sure if I would go that way or for a straight taper for the perfect whip. Forgive me, say that again.
I mean, for those who aren't familiar with the term, it's almost like a exponential curve, but obviously going down. So it starts out very quickly, tapering from the base to getting more pointy toward the end, or narrower, and the last half is very minimal tapering happening. So a lance shape, as you were saying, would be more evenly tapering.
I believe lance is a word that Blake Gorey has coined to like make conversation about that that aspect of it more a little more natural. You know, it's you don't have to understand math. And
someone had a YouTube video with different types drawn out on it as well. It could be Blake. It might have been Johnny.
I think Adam. I know that Adam posted a video talking about some of the different whip tapering schemes and their application. I think I saw that shortly after I saw Gory post on his Instagram just like a hand drawing of different tapering schemes and stuff. So they probably talked about that themselves, or just like sort of agree that those are like the shapes that you see, you know.
So to Justin's question, so the objectively the best type and length of whip. He doesn't give us any use case for this, which I think is a big mistake. I don't know.
He's trying to get my goat. He knows I'm like a whip snob and I'm very opinionated, and I always I try not to, but I feel like I jump down people's throats when they say like, "What's the best whip?" You know, and I'm like, "No, there's not a best whip. It's what are you doing and how do you best how do you best assign a whip to that use and like, you know, stuff like that." But congratulations, Justin. Goat gotten. You have gotten my goat. The best whip is a whip that I
There
made.
you go. I think that is the definitive answer.
Everybody else is wrong.
Right. That's what the whip makers say, right?
I was trying to do a callback to I think it was your first interview with Justin.
Yes.
If I'm, but I whatever.
And once again, that was a quote from one of these books too. I mean that was a common, and you probably have seen this. I don't know what your interaction has been with other whip makers. I know that this day and age, especially with YouTube and all, there's been a lot of friendship and sharing, probably more than there used to be.
Definitely.
From what I have read, that it used to be very much somewhat secretive as to how the magic of the whip was being made and the processes that it took to create them.
Sure.
And that it was common for a whip maker to say that there's two ways to make a whip. There's my way and then there's the wrong way. So all of the whip makers would say that.
It's so funny because it's like you read that and you're like, oh wow, I'll have to be careful to not fall into that pitfall of thinking that I'm the only one who really gets it. But then you get to a point where you start like deviating from the stuff you were taught because you think you have a better way. Mm-hmm. Because it probably at its core because it works better for you and for the things that your body does naturally. But it's like you try not to think that way, but you always end up thinking that way. It's like, wow, I don't know what everybody else is doing, but they definitely don't get it in the way I do. And it's like, wait, no, this is not. I wanted to be the opposite of this person.
It's easy to fall into, which is why it's good to keep bringing up for us to continue to remember.
That's true.
And Justin,
that's right. Yeah, the only antidote is talking to other makers.
Yeah. And there may be an announcement I can make about that in the near future, right? Maybe next weekend. We can. We'll see how that goes. We're talking about putting together whip makers chat, something that we can do out there with some other whip makers.
Okay, cool. Geez.
The one, the
talking
chat
about
that you're
the group chat.
Okay, on, yes. Right?
Obviously. Okay. So, yes, I have not forgotten. I'm just dumb.
But we might
yes, I will be there.
So we're still putting that together when we can get the schedules all to work out. But it'll be really interesting.
For sure.
Justin.
No,
sorry.
Yeah, go on. I'm still like punishing myself for having forgotten about this quite obvious thing you were talking about. But
no, it's okay.
Please go on.
It was very entertaining. No, wrong. Justin says wrong. 5-foot hybrid. Next question. And then he says he loves us so much. So we love you too, Justin. We appreciate it. Aaron Bonk corrects us also.
What a great guy.
And tells us that the 46-inch bullwhip is the best. So there we have it.
Hey, I mean, proof is in his performances, I guess. I mean, you can't really argue when you see him just going at it. That's interesting. When I first started cracking whips, I told myself, yeah, this is cool, but I have no abiding interest in learning two-handed whip cracking. I don't see myself going down that path. And then over time I did, and I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. So it's like now I'm telling myself I have no real interest in learning how to juggle whips. But I mean, it's obviously gaining traction, and I know how I am as a person. So eventually I will go down that avenue too. I'm certain, but I'm still like putting it off because I'm embarrassed. You know,
it's hard. I mean, it's a very different skill, and it's sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries.
That was one of my things I forgot to mention, is that we should put our phones on mute. But yeah, there you go.
Make sure that mine is okay. There you go. It's good.
Keith Smith says a 12-foot bullwhip. See, once again, it has to do with
wrong.
Wrong. It has to do with what we're using it for. But
for sure, yeah. Ah, man, I was so impressed by Keith's last clip of him like nailing that soda can in
Right?
the air with the 12-foot whip. I was like,
What?
okay, you need to stop. Did you see that?
Yes,
Yeah,
I
no,
saw that.
it was insane. And he didn't just like nick it.
He
He tore it
did.
apart. Like it spun out. Like he
Soda
nailed
went
it, you know? And I'm
everywhere.
like, oof.
I mean,
Nice.
I was really impressed with soda with can cutting. I mean, I've seen Adam do it a bunch of times, and I've seen other people doing. What was it? The video Danny put out. He cut two of them at once. That was super cool. And yeah,
Ah,
now
shoot, I didn't see that.
yeah, in his compilation one-handed something that he submitted this year for the LA
Okay.
WhipCon. It's one of the clips in there. Yeah, two side by side. Goes through both of them.
Shoot.
Awesome. Um,
Insane.
he's got a
I will
lot
be
of
looking
power.
that up like tonight. Okay.
Yeah.
For sure.
But then Keith comes along
no,
and just raises that bar again and just in the air. You know?
and I love this stuff because it's like I don't know, I'm trying to like organize the insanely broad concept of like whip skills and the different schools of whip cracking and stuff like that. And it's like all these little moves, like, yeah, you can cut through a soda can. Obviously, you can cut through a soda can, but can you cut through two? So it's like, oh, okay, you can cut through two soda cans. And then like, okay, but can you nail a soda can in the air from, well, I mean, with the fall and with your arm and stuff, let's say, 16 feet away,
Right.
while it's flying. Okay, oh, cut a can in the air from 16 feet away, it's just insane. Everybody is increasing they're raising the bar,
They are. Keith has another video. He has some dinner rolls that he throws up in the air and just explodes them with a little short 4-footer that he's got. It's awesome. I love it.
Stupid gluten. No, he's good. He's good. He's put the work in. Definitely.
Yes, it definitely shows. Oh my goodness. And yeah, I'm getting phone calls continuously here, so I should probably wrap this up as well.
Okay.
Thank you
For
very
sure.
much, Tori. This has been an absolute honor. I look forward to chatting with you again soon. And
No, likewise.
we don't have to broadcast it to the world either if you just want to chat, like I said. So this has been
take the pressure off. That'd be nice.
Right.
No, I appreciate you so much, man. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for taking the time. Of course, you're doing
Thank you
awesome
very
work.
much. And it is really my honor to speak with all these wonderful whip makers, and as I started the show, to bring
Likewise,
the community
for sure.
together, right? All right.
Definitely. No, awesome job, everybody.
Absolutely. Goodbye, everybody. Have a good night.
No,
sorry.
Great to see you, man.
Talk to you later.
All right. Yeah. Later.